The first time I came across you, James, was
In bed. You dirty bastard. Right, okay. No.
your comment on Sean's post. Wee posh boy.
No, posh voice.
Wee posh
Wee
voice.
posh voice.
How's that any better?
It's not. It's funny. Voice. Your inflection. Voices in particularly in Glasgow. It's a real. It's almost like a badge of honour. So I just
It's
like
dead
noise.
cliquey, isn't it?
It is because what happens is I've got loads of deep rooted issues which I'll tell you about with voices, but basically I just like fucking noising people up. So yeah, just
I didn't even have a clue who you were. Just like, who is this? Wee posh voice. How would you say? So Jink asked it. So I've been getting
you
this
sound
quite
like
a lot.
you sound like you're from Newton Mearns like that, like you know. And I think probably
West End or Glasgow Uni.
well, no, Glasgow Uni's a wee bit more rugby boy like that. Like I was so fucking drunk last night,
cricket.
man. Like Gregor, this guy's wanting a bit of trouble. You know what I mean? No, I think it's a wee bit more Jim sort of white like that.
Right, okay.
You know, but I'm fascinated by that because how you talk carries a lot of weight, rightly or wrongly, about how you are perceived by people. And there's this aspiration that you must be working class, and that, you know, working class people sound a particular way. And I spent many years working as a TV presenter and aspired to be a TV presenter at a higher level, and I didn't know how to speak properly, if that makes sense.
Because I can see you're doing it right now.
Yeah, so
do you know what I mean? Like I can see you doing it.
That's right. So what happens is, because Glaswegians, we talk like 600 mile an hour, we talk like, right, you that me, man, if you don't fucking don't know the movement. So we don't actually pronounce our vowels, right?
Right.
So when we need to be more polite, we just go a bit more nasally like that. We just, hiya, you all right? And then we just, you know, talk a wee bit Jim White. Breaking news,
Like
Harry
voice, isn't it?
Redknapp's in the car park, and Peter Crouch is over there. And I didn't realise, like, have you ever seen the film The Wee Man?
Yeah.
Right, I mean, it's fucking
I mean, I
dread.
was about 12 when I
It's
seen
dreadful, right? I mean, you can watch it.
tragic.
You can watch it when you're 18. You don't need to reference when it came out. I was 12.
I
All
was
right, okay.
fucking nuts, mate.
All right. Have you ever seen The Wee Man? It's the story of Paul Ferris. It's fucking hilarious because you got loads of wee guys sound like yourself going, right, I'll get you up the Ponderosa. He's getting chibbed. And then there's like a load of East Coasters going, right, we're going to fucking slash him. And you're just like, and it's tragic though, because a lot of Glaswegian accents in their true form are not accurately portrayed or allowed to be on.
I've never seen a film that can do a Glasgow accent like properly.
Aye.
I've never met anyone that can even see someone that's not from Glasgow that can actually do a proper Glaswegian accent.
I know a lot of Glaswegians that can't do a Glaswegian accent. So no, but that's actually so. Going back to the original comment, I was probably just looking at the noise up there.
You're just trying to line me up.
But there is actually, and it's actually unfair because you are judged on. So I know a lot of comedians will try and sound a lot more working class than they are because you know, very few comedians. I've got a friend who's a brilliant comedian, Mick McNeil, and he's probably one of the only guys that comes out and goes, "I'm very middle class." Yeah. And he owns it, and he's very funny. Whereas you get a lot of punters kidding on that they're like dead rough and stuff like that. They're like, oh, I know, right, like, you know. And again, it's that whole thing. Nobody wants to admit to either coming from any form of privilege, and privilege doesn't just mean wealth.
Yeah.
People almost want to deny that because it's like the rags to riches narrative is sort of better. Do you know what I mean? So.
Well, and even if you do a little bit better and you come from a council estate in Glasgow, you'll get torn to shreds for it anyway. So you kind of have to keep it in you a wee bit.
I think so. I think it's that thing as well. Is like there's nothing wrong with having the benefit of a good upbringing or a stable upbringing, because that doesn't necessarily mean wealth. It could be from anywhere, but that is that. I think the world is now obsessed with this rags to riches narrative, almost to the point of, I don't really give a fuck about the detail. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's where I'd actually commented on one of your TikToks because there's a lot of guys that were giving it. Who's Molly May? I don't even fucking know who Molly May is, and I was like, "Full of shit, man."
Everybody knows who she is. She
well,
was
exactly.
all
Well,
over
you said you
TikTok.
didn't. You said you didn't know.
I knew she was on Love Island,
Aye.
but I don't actually watch Love Island.
I don't watch it either. I read the papers.
So I knew her name.
Yeah.
She was on the fucking posters everywhere. So
Yeah.
I knew who she was, but I would have never heard her speak. Do you know what I mean?
No, there was
but
a lot.
I knew she'd have went out with Tommy Fury.
I think there was a load of like on. I was fast. It's funny. I don't watch these programs, but I fucking love reading all the gossip on it. Like I don't
same.
read the Daily Mail. or anything like that. But every day I read the BBC Sport gossip column. That's my first port of call every morning. Has been since I was 21.
Chris Boyd special.
He's not on it. Chris
Is he
Boyd,
not? He writes quite a lot now, though, doesn't he?
No, he writes fuck all. Chris Boyd, he's a pundit.
No, he does articles as well. Him and Chris Sutton both write as well.
No, they do not write a thing. They'll phone in.
Tell them I said this. Put it in a paragraph.
They phone into. That's what happens. So the journalists will phone them in and what's your thoughts? But no, the BBC. Do you ever look to the BBC Sport gossip columns? That is a. If anyone's, are you into football?
Yeah.
I was going to say probably not. Fuck up. Into football, probably not. Right, BBC Sport gossip column. I've been since I was 21. All that does is gives you all the back page headlines from all the different newspapers, so you just find out what's going on. So I read that first, then I go into the Scottish Sun, fucking read that top to bottom, the Daily Record top to bottom, and then I'll read the Guardian, right, and the odd time fucking the byline.
Is this how you get successful?
No, it's just
your morning routine.
I just like I like reading. I'm well informed. Do you know what I mean? That's it. So I know all about fucking Molly May. I'm fascinated by cultural influences and stuff like that. So when that whole thing came out, and like I think I totally agreed with your sentiments. People, it's a 22-year-old. The shite I spoke at 22. You know, because you think you know yourself. Exactly. You're like, yeah, well, you know, this is the way the world is. You think, like, fucking, I hope nobody's recorded what I've said there. It was ridiculous, but that's indicative, in my opinion, now of this world we're in, where everyone wants to kind of claim the fucking sort of zero to hero success story. And I think what's hard is that people aren't saying, yeah, but also listen, I was able to live with my parents for 5 years rent free, and that gave me the platform to get where I wanted to go. Or look, I started off doing, if it was a social media influencer, I started off doing this. It's a lot of work and you've got to be unpaid. But I was fortunate in that I didn't need to have a job, and that gave me the springboard to the success. And I think that's the bit you're seeing now in this sort of meme culture, where, you know, you see all those fucking things fired up, and it's like, there's one that always gets me. It's what's his name? Jeff Bezos was, you know, working in his garage, launched Amazon in his garage when he was 40. You can still make it. And you're like, let's just back up a wee second. Jeff Bezos went to fucking Stanford and was working on Wall Street, right? And
Gary V's my favourite.
Was an incredibly intelligent guy, and started off with a $376,000 loan from his parents. Now, he made them, or convinced them, that what he was doing was going to be so successful. They basically gave him the life savings. That guy would have been successful no matter what.
Yep.
But I think that little missing bit at the start is why we're almost kind of upside down. So as you were saying...
So you mean that nobody will be allowed to be perceived as successful if they've got like her background, where she kind of had a wee bit of money? They have to have like had a rough upbringing to be allowed to.
I think it's actually bigger than that. I think it's any success story now. People are thinking, I don't really forget all that bit. Let's just talk about the bit where you were working at night and you were a single parent. Let's just start from there.
Yeah.
You know, it's like there's a lot of podcasts, and I think podcast culture's got a lot to blame for this now, because there's little scrutiny in a lot of podcasts. So you just get somebody on, and
I hate the whole interview thing. I like we were talking about before. Stephen Bartlett's I can't watch now. Like I actually hate it.
I think he is
same thing
the
every
fucking
time.
Biggest problem going.
But I fell for it for like 3 months. I was obsessed with it, and then I was talking to Sean, and he was just like, he's full of shit. And I watched it, and I was like, oh, he's doing the same thing, and he's going. Everything you're saying is how he's set that up.
He's
to play on that. Yeah. He's playing on all of it.
I think this is the bit. It's not about then decrying someone, because we've got this cancel culture. Obviously, I like the title of the podcast. Cancel culture is almost wanting to disprove people. So he's not successful. He's actually a crook, and it's too polarized. It's not, well, he's amazing or shite. It's actually, well, just it'll be somewhere in the middle. Yeah. But like, aye. So for example, that guy Stephen Bartlett, multi-millionaire, obviously very clever at what he's done. He's done amazingly well. However, I bet there's a whole load of shit that he's got up to that he will 100%. Never talk about, because 100%. If you've ever spent any time around millionaires or entrepreneurs, and I've been fortunate enough to be around, you know, people and friends who have done exceptionally well, right, to that sort of level. Some of the stories they tell you about how they make money. Yeah. I don't fucking pay suppliers. I used to wait 120 days till I paid them.
I just keep the money in a bank.
Keep the money in the bank.
Interest coming
hopefully they'll go bust, and I'll no need to pay them at all. All right, nobody writes that. Nobody writes that in their book, and I'm writing a book about it, because it's almost a cultural obsession now.
Tell me about the book then.
Well, I've not started writing it yet, so I'm just putting myself.
Well, you mentioned it 4 times.
I know.
I'm writing this book.
I'm writing this book. No, it is about. I've just done a lot of research at the moment. It is about our obsession. It's almost with creating a halo effect and how we want to pedestal people. And actually, the problem is that there was a sales address. It's called. It's escaped my attention. I used to send it to everyone as well. It's from the 1940s. It's called the Fundamentals of Success by E.N. Gray. It is right, but right. Albert Gray. It's a brilliant, and it's an address made to insurance salesmen in America in the 1940s, and it's basically it's these traveling salesmen would turn up at people's doors, try and sell them insurance, and it was all like he says, I lead men and I'm supposed to know about success, but actually I know very little about successful people. So what are the fundamentals of successful people? And he said, looks at it, successful people seem to be able to do the things that people ordinarily don't want to do, like get up early, like work longer, like try harder, like take rejection more, like, better themselves, and all these different things, right? And that's really insightful, because at that point, there was no social media that you would think, how's that person successful? And somebody would tell, bloody hell, do you hear that? You know that he does this, 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 and this. We're now at a stage where people know what to say that they're doing to be successful without actually doing it. And I think that's where we're getting now.
Because it's the exact same story every single time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like every single...
I get up early at 5 a.m, I do cold showers, I meditate and all that.
If you watch Stephen Bartlett's podcast, it's now like following the same script every single time, and it's a different person. And then
it's just with that trendy music underneath it, work hard, work
the start, mate.
Work bloody hard.
The
work
start
bloody
gets
hard.
me so much. I was expecting this guy to come in, and he was completely different. It's like that every time. Into this guy has changed my life, and he will change yours too. It's like you're just like, it must be. You've probably not even got that's probably pre-recorded before the podcast.
It's the thing is, I really find it hard to watch him, but because I just think he's a tadger. And the thing is as well, he's a fucking idiot, man. Like, do you know what I mean? I watched a video of him because I've been watching him on TikTok. Keeps coming up on my feed.
You can't get rid of him, can
right?
you?
And he was like, networking. I don't do networking because it's a waste of time. Great networking. So what? I mean, I don't do networking, mate. I just watched a video where you're talking about being at a networking event. I had to, and it's that narcissism where you create the problem, and then you tell everyone how you solve the problem. So you're the hero. So you're creating your own halo effect. So I didn't know if I was going to get wages for these people. We had to pay them. We had to pay these people. All right, thanks for that, mate. And the only way we could pay these people was the bank said, look, if you can get one of your clients to say they're going to give you £4 million worth of work, we will sign the payroll to pay everyone. And there were parents that needed medicine for their kids. I mean, and I would never not pay anyone, but I couldn't pay anyone, but I was going to pay them.
Made that up.
Do you know what I mean? And then it was all this big thing about how he got them. And I got this guy, and I thought, well, if I get these guys on shots, I could maybe, and so I got these guys, and I got these, shots, and then we signed the contract, and I fucking saved the day. And you're just like, all right, so you networking there, mate? And it's just, we're at this stage where nobody's actually saying, all right, can we just take that back a wee second? So do you think that's the right thing to do? So everyone's creating their own platforms, and like, I like a lot of podcasts. I fucking don't listen to podcasts because by and large, there's very little objectivity. Do you know what I mean? And like, I want that's what I'm looking for. Maybe I'm in the minority, but I'm looking for a bit of objectivity. There are podcasts out there, right, where you've got guys interviewing fucking drug dealers and convicted killers going, what was that like, mate, when you first stabbed somebody? Was it good? No,
I can't stand those ones. Right. Glasgow's got hundreds of them. That's every second podcast probably in here. I
absolutely no, but the thing is as well, like, I mean, there's a lot I admire about that podcasting game, and there's a lot I admire about guys like James English, right, who I know from growing up. I love the democracy involved in that, because as somebody who was worked in television and wanted to get into the BBC or get into, there is a lot of glass ceilings there for people from certain backgrounds with certain voices who talk a certain way. They will never get on there, right? So I like the democracy that podcasting has brought, because all of a sudden you've got guys that are allowed to have their own platform there that have been really successful, right? And I really respect and admire, I'm probably a bit jealous of that success, right? However, what I also think is, fucking hell, man, you can't keep pedestaling guys that are, you know, fucking killing folk or stabbing people or, you know, and, you know, like, you know, listen, bro, you've been really on it. It must be hard for you to fucking admit all this. All right, what about the guy you stabbed? What about his wife and kids? Are they all right? And, you know, so I think
they've always like reformed. It's like, are they though? Like, how can you now be sound 20 years after doing a load of fucked up shit?
I think obviously you can, but I think there's ones you can see it in their face. They're fucking loving it, man. Do you know what I mean? They must be like, listen, I'll get into the drug game and then do a bit of time and then I've got the podcast circuit to work on when I come out. So I don't know. I just find a lot of people are fucking full of shit.
Did you see that one with Ryan Giggs' brother?
No. I don't watch any. I find it too difficult to watch.
But like his brother literally fucked him over like a million times. You know the story of that, don't you?
No, but the best part of the Ryan Giggs story is, right, the best part for me, and this is all about, I'm obsessed with narcissism. We've all got narcissistic tendencies, right? Absolutely, you can't deny that. We've all got
especially if you're doing this, as a comedian especially. You have to be a wee bit narcissistic to be a comedian. I think
for anything, yeah.
You're standing in front of a stage saying, laugh at what I'm saying.
Absolutely, or you're looking for validation. Definitely, there's no doubt about that.
I think any social media sort of thing is as well.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's the thing. There's nothing wrong with a bit of vanity. There's nothing wrong because that's part of the ego drive. You know what I mean? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You didn't stab into Maslow. Do you know what I mean? That's the fucking level we're going at here. So there's nothing wrong with that. Self-awareness is key. But no, the Ryan Giggs thing, the fascinating thing for me was because I was living in London at the time. I remember every Sunday in the newspapers, that's when I used to buy the newspapers.
How long have you been reading this stuff for?
But my dad worked in the shipyards, right?
Right.
And he worked night shift. And so he used to come in the morning with the rolls and he'd put down the Daily Record on the table. And that was like a big treat, man. I was fucking 8. So I was reading the papers, fucking the back page, and you would end up just, when I'd go to school, I'd be buying papers for the shops. So I remember on a Sunday, be reading the papers, and that's when they were printing the Premiership ace. We're not allowed to fucking name him that because remember the super injunction he took out. So they knew, the newspapers knew Ryan Giggs was having an affair and they couldn't name who it was with. It was Ryan Giggs is having an affair with Imogen Thomas, and my mate at the time was Imogen Thomas's agent, right? A guy that we knew in London.
Was she a model?
Imogen Thomas, she was on Big Brother, and then she was a model. And they said we can't name him, and actually, because he'd gone and taken out a super injunction, and that was a really expensive High Court injunction where basically you're saying this is not the public interest to publish this and the damage it could do to their family. So a lot of high power people were doing that sort of thing. And it was actually the Herald that broke the story because it was in Scotland. The Herald were the first paper that were allowed to publish it, right? So Ryan Giggs...
Are you the only person that knows all of this?
No, it's just if you read the papers every day, fucking...
But nobody else does.
I know, but I'm fucking cleverer than everybody then. Jesus Christ. No, but that's what I mean.
Because
like,
you read the Daily Record and the Herald.
But you've got to, I think, to get your information now, because there's so much shite out there. Joe Rogan. If anyone who listens to fucking the Joe Rogan podcast, fucking Joe Rogan, man, shut up. If you listen to the Joe Rogan podcast, you're a fucking Joe Rogan bandit, by the way. I bet
you can see it in my eyes.
Why don't you shut up? I've got an immune system. I don't need fucking. I don't need a shot. Okay. Good luck with that. The cancer ward, mate. Fucking hell. No. So what happened was Ryan Giggs has obviously been having an affair with Imogen Thomas, cheating on his wife, right? And it comes out, and he's fucking caught it. And that's it. That fucking Giggs, he's been shagging Imogen Thomas. Fucking everyone's, oh my God, right? And then Ryan Giggs' sister-in-law, his brother's wife.
So that's not Imogen Thomas?
No.
Right, so that's
Ryan Giggs' sister-in-law, right, has decided, she just came at me like that. I've been shagging him as well. That's what happened. She could get away with it. She fucking wanted her moment. Right. And that's what happened. So I was like, that's just somebody who was like, oh no, wait a minute.
Because she went away to...
She's like, no, I've been shagging him as well. And that's what happened.
And as soon as it came out, she went away to Spain or something like that when it all came out. But she'd make loads of money, but then she just fled the country.
So I always think that's, you're in that stage now where people are just like, fuck it, infamy.
People want attention for anything.
Infamy's better than nothing, because unfortunately, that's how the world has been rewarded. So if I watched Love Island for 5 episodes, and it was the one. It was the one where it's one where that big good-looking boy Adam, the big fucking good-looking boy.
He's a PT.
Oh, that's why he's a wank then. fucking got all the hallmarks, hasn't he? No, we'll get to that. Don't worry. I brought a sledgehammer for you.
I'm getting saying
I would like to be.
abuse.
By the way, I've got to say, I would actually. It's one of the things I would like to do next. I would like to do.
You're slaughtering them. You just
badges.
came from one.
Absolutely, he's brilliant. He's really good. I think there's just a load of fucking
there's some
daft wee
terrible
boys and girls that are doing it just now for the wrong reasons. People are just desperate to be.
Well, people can't tell if it's an influencer or PT. Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah, and that's the world that you're in.
Because people that have a good physique and are good looking are now becoming coaches just so they can sell shit. That's the problem with it.
Well, that's it. Put a wee pin in that, because we'll come back to the money, the monetary aspect. Because as soon as anyone creates a platform, the first thing they go is, "Oh fuck, how do I monetize this?"
Yeah,
and sell them shite.
That's the problem that I have. I've not got anything.
You can't figure anything. Why don't you sell resistance bands or all the fucking stupid PTs?
That's why I'm not doing it.
Like £2 resistance. Because what they're thinking is, if I can sell resistant bands at £3, that's inconspicuous spending, because nobody will really think about fucking £3.
Nobody will buy in like that from me because I've spent 2 years slagging it all off.
But that's good though, because what happens is people create a platform and a background by being into something, and then the moment they get there, they go, "Yeah, I'll fucking sell anything." And it must be difficult not to. And to go back to that thing,
you got offered like 5 figures and you've never made that before. Then it's
very hard. So it's easy to sit. It's easy to have morals when it costs you nothing. It's difficult to have morals all of a sudden when the pound note's been waved over your head. And so as I was saying to you, I only watched Love Island. My mate Chick was like, "You need to watch this. You need to watch this." And I watched it, and I was right into it for a few episodes, and then I thought, I'm not into this because they're fucking basically bullying people. And I've got friends who are producers on Love Island, right? Boys that I worked with. And it's manipulation. You don't give them a clock, so they don't know what time it is. You know, or do you quite like that lassie? I mean, the worst feeling in the world you can ever get is fancying a girl, right? Or fancying someone, and then seeing somebody else winching her, you know what I mean? Like, right? So it's like, do you really like that girl?
But if I went on, it'd be highlights me just crying under the bed.
Do you like one another? Right, okay, what we'll do is we'll wait there, walk into the bedroom now. That's it, get her, right, that's it. And sorry, you weren't meant to see that. And Ian Stall's like, wasn't meant to see that. He was winching it, and now he's crying. Sorry about that.
He's the one I can't stand. If you slag Joe Rogan off and Stephen Bartlett, Ian Sterling is the worst for me.
I don't have many views on him. I can't stand his missus. I think she's full of shit.
I don't know who that is.
That's so she's the one.
No, it's him.
It's like
He's
a gossip
so tragic,
column.
man.
No, she's the one. What's her name? She's the Irish presenter. Laura Whitmore.
Right.
Is it Laura Whitmore? Is that her name? Laura Whitmore. One of them was an X Factor contestant. Whitmore. That was Sarah Whitmore. No, it's Laura Whitmore, right? So she was the one. She's the one that goes on and was.
You really, like quite a lot of people, don't you?
She was crying about Caroline Flack, because that was her friend, and she obviously committed suicide, and she's fucking urging people to be kind and all the rest of it. There's been a bit of a backlash because I think there was a journalist who said, "Listen, hi, introduced myself to her agent. I'm going to run this story. We've heard she's called the baby Stevie after Stevie Nicks. We think it's a great name. Could you ask her if she's got any comments for us, because we're going to run the story?" So she kind of posted all this, outed the journalist's name, who was a female journalist. She's like, "This is fucking ridiculous. I just want privacy, blah, blah, blah. You know, I've lost friends to this. It's shocking," talking about Caroline Flack. So, you know, and again, I found there was a major hypocrisy to that, because you're thinking, right, is that show any good for people? Because there's been 3 suicides, right, for people that have been on it. There have been people who...
Caroline Flack wasn't even on it, wasn't she?
She was the host, but you know, but is that good for people's mental health? Because you're putting people into an environment where ultimately you're setting them up to be bullied, right? Because bullying is manipulating events. So you're either being bullied for the benefit of the show, you're setting them up to, you know, damage their mental health through contrived instances of rejection, you know, all these sorts of things. So you're doing all that. Is it a good thing? You can't control people.
I think the worst part is that they're only going to be famous for a year. Well, I think that's what sets them up straight away, because they're all, see if they've never had any sort of business advice or like fame before, they're getting all of this like top level fame and they've no experience with it, so they're obviously going to fuck it up. And if you fuck up that's going to kill you. Like,
you're in the public eye. Well, I think the thing, going back to that girl Laura Whitmore, is she makes money off Instagram. She makes money off that program. She then stepped in to host it the next year, and that's the thing about morals. So it's like, could everyone not be kind? Well, why don't you? You know, so people want to pick and choose when they want to be in the public eye. You're either in the public eye or you're not. if you're an influencer, you can't really complain. I mean, I know
It's like you have to accept that
well,
you're gonna get shit.
unfortunately, and it's, you know, you could say to people, be kind. Obviously, that would be great, but you're actually saying, let's fix the world, as opposed to maybe look at building up a better resilience to what's going on. So the reason I don't watch those programs is actually for a much different vanity. Is when I worked as a TV producer, and I tried to become a TV presenter. That's what I wanted to do, and there's no linear path to becoming a TV presenter. There's not
Sucking people off.
I don't. That's a very misogynistic comment. I'm going to distance myself from that one. Right, and so I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. And that's really depressing if it is, and it's depressing for a number of reasons. But there isn't a linear path to that. So if you want to be a TV presenter, you can't apply for a TV presenter's job. Really, there's not. It's not like, all right, come in here. Right, well, what we'll do is we'll build you up. You've actually just got to work in that environment. And traditionally, before reality TV, you had to just work in television, and you would have maybe got given an opportunity to present a competition segment, a little, what they call, throw a VT or something. So, for example, if you worked on GMTV or This Morning, you might have got to do the 2-minute segment saying, oh, well, coming up after the break, we've got a holiday to give away in Mexico for your chance to win. You might have
That's
got
your
that.
best hope, and then what happens after that? You're hoping someone sees that, or you can take.
So what happens
that
is
clip to someone.
what happens is they might get you to do a bit more and a bit more and a bit more, and they might have a show in development, or they might have somebody stand in, or they might say, look, we'll actually bring you on. It's a bit like when you listen to a radio program, you've always got the sidekick who does a little bit, and then 5 years down the line, you're like, oh fuck, he's presenting his own program. So in television, that doesn't really exist. So I worked for a sports channel called Setanta. So I had to do a lot of entrepreneurial things to use I had to say to my boss.
What did you actually do for Santa?
I was an assistant producer, and then for the first 3 years, then I became a producer. So I made more programs, a bit more responsibility. And I used to do some voiceover stuff for programs I was making. And if we had studio downtime, I'd say to my boss, look, is there any chance I could use the studio before we're in for the next, because we were paying for the crew. I would get my friend Neil Murray, who used to play for Rangers. He was my co-commentator for the French games. I'd say, Neil, he wasn't on screen, but I'd say, any chance you could wear your suit.
So you were commentating as well?
No. So I would produce the games. I'd have a commentator,
right,
which would be like, say, Jock Brown, for example, or Jim Proudfoot, and I'd have a co-commentator, be Mark Haitley or Neil Murray or someone. Sometimes you'd have a studio guest. And these guys would be doing what you call off-tube commentary. So there would just be along in a little voiceover booth along the corridor,
Yeah.
And we would have the feed coming in with the, clean, no graphics on it, just crowd effects. The guys would commentate on it as if they were at the game. We'd put it out. So I would kind of do all that. So if we had downtime, I'd say, Neil, any chance you'd come into the studio? And we would kind of make fake programs. So I would be in the chair, I'd have my suit on, and I'd pretend I was hosting Lyon versus Marseille.
Right.
Neil would, and we would do, so I would build up stuff like that. I would send them to a friend of mine who was a presenter on Sky Sports. He'd give me feedback, and I would just try and improve, and then eventually...
So you were just practicing?
Practicing, and then my boss gave me a chance to present some football in Setanta. I did a couple of 3 Dutch games over the sort of Christmas period. I thought I acquitted myself.
The Jim White job?
Yeah, that's right. So, I'm 25 at that point now. At that stage, there's not many people in Britain who are presenting football matches that are going out to that platform, because you've got guys on Sky, then there was Setanta Sports, Eurosport.
Setanta only had Scotland for like a year or two, didn't it?
No, Setanta had Scottish football for 5 years.
Was it?
5 years. We had the English Premiership for 2, so it was a big operation.
What happened to them?
They went bust. They just couldn't pay for the subscription. They couldn't get the subscriptions to pay for they'd overpaid for the English Premiership games. But basically what happened was, I thought I was going to then, because at that point you've presented 3 games, so you're still seen as a producer, but no, you did all right. And my boss went, look, they'll maybe use you next year on Setanta Sports News, so and that's how you would maybe step in for a cover shift, and then all of a sudden, you're 6 months down the line, you could maybe go to Sky Sports or somewhere else. But we went bust at that point. So I had guys, friends of mine that I worked with, Daryl Curry, really lovely guy, talks like you, right? Sounds like that. All right, mate, great. And Daryl did really well. Daryl got to present some
because he
rugby.
spoke like that.
And maybe, and he Daryl presents on BT Sport now. And actually, there was a picture he put up the other day of him and a girl called Jules, the two of them fucking fronting BT Sport, and I worked with her on the shopping channels. So I was
What was the shopping channels like?
It was great fun, man. It was hard work.
What were you actually doing?
Selling.
Jewellery?
Selling everything.
Right.
Women's clothes, jewellery, pots and pans.
Do you make commission off of that at all?
No.
No? So if like you sell something really well and you make quite a lot of money off it, you don't get anything from it?
I just got the vanity that I was better than other people, and you would get booked for more shifts. So there was always a benefit.
Those shows are so creepy to watch. So do you not think? Have you seen it on TikTok now? People are starting to do it live.
What
on
I
TikTok.
find hilarious is they're really bad at selling. So on the shopping channels, you actually had to be good at selling. You had to be in.
And you'd been a salesman before, hadn't you?
No.
Or was that after that?
It's after that. So again, the shopping channels, a lot of people went there to be famous because, like, I wanted to be on television. So I went, look, that's a good job to get because
the narcissism coming out.
Well, no, it's because you wanted to be on television. Most people had aspirations of going to something bigger, X Factor or whatever, but you have to find your voice on air. Just get used to being in front of a camera, talking every day, so that's your 3.5 hours. So you're racking up hundreds of hours like that, whereas you could be presenting a really good show on BBC One, for example, and you could be getting 20 minutes of airtime per week.
Fuck it up.
Well, that's it. So it was a really good environment, but it's very difficult to get on from there. So there was a guy that worked on the shopping channels that came to Setanta, because when Setanta was expanding, we started showing French, German, Dutch, Italian football, and we got a guy called Jerry McCulloch to come and present stuff at the weekends. And Jerry was doing Price Shop TV and Bid Up TV, and Jerry McCulloch ended up doing STV News, the 5:30 show. He did the Celtic TV. He's now head of media at Celtic. And I always remember somebody saying to me, because I was wanting to present, and like someone at STV went, listen, Jerry doesn't need auto cue, because the thing is, see, most of the people that did the shopping channels, they would run rings round fucking 95-96% of any TV presenter on any channel in the UK, because these guys are on air, live, unscripted,
off the cuff,
talking about
absolute shite.
And well, the thing is, I know a lot of it sounds like a lot of shite, but like I'm a font of information, because you'd have to be in 3.5 to 4 hours before you went on air to look at the 30 products that you were selling, look at them, touch them, fucking learn about them, so I can tell you about fucking fine porcelain, bone china, why it's called bone china, watches, what the quartz movement is, where it originated from, the
people on TikTok are literally just using their audience to sell it against that, so they're not.
So
they're not good at selling.
They're
whatever.
shit at selling. So it's just like, all right, aye. Have you got that?
Are you going out tonight?
When's that coming back again? All right, I get that, bro. You know what I mean?
You wearing this tomorrow?
Do you know what I mean? Whereas, like you had to think, right, and also you would have a bit of feedback, because you'd have an earpiece and the producer would go, he's like, keep going with that, mate. They like that, keep, so it'd be like, if you were touching it a certain way, and he'd be like, yeah, I think that, because they would just have the monitor flashing up with sales coming in.
Right.
So I could sell something that a presenter had on. So I loved it, because I'm an economics man. I love economics, and it's a true interaction of supply and demand. So like you could have, I remember I would sell these glass vases, and like someone had them at, say, on the 11 o'clock shift, 11 till 3, and they had 15 of them, and they wanted 19 quid, and they sold all 15 of them at £26. And he's like, oh yeah, we fucking did well, we overachieved on that. I would have 70.
Would they change the prices of them?
No, and I would have 70 of them at 6 o'clock, and I would sell all 70 of them at 60 quid. Right. But you can't do that if there's no substance to it. You can't sell extra at a higher price by just going, oh, it's beautiful, it's lovely, it's amazing. You can't just throw adjectives at it. You need to actually know, where is the value? So it's high value selling. So you need to know, what's the story behind this? Is there a story? So like these vases it was called Walter Glass. Walter Glass was a German glass manufacturer in Dresden. The factory had to get into district, had to cease production during the Second World War. There was a whole story. And then it was all about how you sell that.
You're creating scarcity as well.
How you sell that story. So like my producer was on, he won MasterChef actually a couple of years ago, but he was my producer, and he would be like, right, we used to sell like World War DVDs. So he would play the World War DVDs in the background. He'd play sad music, and he would really make the TV around you. So, you know, he'd be like, right, Gal, push in on James. And I'd be like, you know,
zooming in you slowly and
doing
all
the
that.
story. And the prices, it was very heavily regulated, whereas all these influencers are not regulated the same way. So you couldn't infer or create comparative value. So you couldn't sell a glass vase at 20 quid and say, this looks like something you'd get at £600, because the advertising standards agency would be on you.
Right.
And you'd get fined and all that. So you had to, all the start prices, so these channels, the prices would say start at 60 quid and would go down to maybe £9.99 or something. But I think the start price was never allowed to be any more than 3.5 or 4 ticks. So they were all set on a regulated computer. You couldn't manipulate.
I haven't really paid attention to what happens on these programs, because it starts and then they drop the price, don't they, quite a lot?
That's what they do, but you can't. It's like the South Park sketch. You can't start it at £1 million and sell it at a tenner. If the target price is a tenner, I think the highest amount the start price could be.
And are you thinking about that in your head, that you want people to buy at the higher price?
Well, absolutely, because you ran it like the stock.
So you try to sell it at the start?
Well, you ran it like the stock market, because what happened was you'd value on a bit of paper, right? So you would have a schedule and it would give you all the numbers, right? You've got 45 of these Elvis mugs. We want $2.99 for them, but we got £6 off the postage and packaging. So there was, 400 quid contribution if you got $3.99 for the mugs. Then you go down, you're like, we've got the internet dongle. We want $19.99 for that. Cost price $14, but we've got 200 of them. So there's £1,000 in that. And you'd be like, oh, mate, I had them last night. They fucking bombed. They hate that. So you would need to look through the shift and figure out how could you get the price up on some things. And we would sell a lot of stuff cheaper than it was meant to go.
Right.
To create momentum. And like, I remember...
And you try to get people to watch it as well.
Try to get people to watch it.
Because if you know the next product's coming up, you don't care because you've got people watching it.
Well, that's
so
it.
You know you can sell the next one.
You're not allowed to stay on the same product very long because people get bored. These channels are built on flicking. So there's a whole science to it. And
it's literally the same as social media now, though, isn't it? Like keeping people on.
You've got to keep them entertained. You've got to give them a reason to buy. And I remember, like, one of the best shifts we ever did was Tom was looking at the fucking schedule and he's like, mate, how the fuck, nobody's going to stay watching this stuff, shite. If we tell them what's coming next, they're not going to turn. So you know what he did? He's like, fuck it, let's not tell anyone what we're doing next. And we did the whole shift, what's next, and a big question mark. So you would turn it into like a game show and stuff like that, almost, you know what I mean?
So you would have enjoyed that then, because there's a creative aspect to it.
It was brilliant, because
there was going in and doing the same thing.
There was a lot of accounting as well, because a lot of producers were rubbish. So they'd be like, oh, I'm going to put the clock out, James. And I'd be cut the mic. You know, they'd zoom onto the shot of the fucking jewellery spinning around. I'd be like, don't fucking, no. Because I wanted to finish top. I wanted to have the biggest shift of the day. I wanted to beat the other presenters, because you would get booked again, or you would get more shifts. Or also, it would just cause breakdowns for other people, which I was very, very interested, because like we were so competitive. Like, I'd love to fuck other people up.
So it was well cliquey as well then.
Oh, it was like a Viper's pit, man, because it was 3 channels. It was Bid Up TV, Price Drop TV, and Speed Auction TV. One. So Speed Auction TV was the shittest one, because it was only on Sky, and like you would only ever have like 8 or 9 or something, because it would probably only a couple hundred people watching. Price Drop TV and Bid Up TV or Bid TV was on Freeview, so you had a much bigger platform. And like Price Drop TV was like something ridiculous, like channel 13 on Freeview, whereas Price Drop was like 26 or something like that. So you know, if you could do a bigger shift on Price Drop, it was a big. So it's really competitive. So you'd all been a drip. What have you got? And you'd be like, oh, I've got the toast. Oh, mate, they fucking love those toasters, right? And you'd be like, do they? Yeah, mate, you can get 30 quid on them. Be fucking presenter, right behind the ears, would run out to his producer. Oh, fucking James says you can get 30 quid on them. Right, we'll move them first. Right, and then you'd be like, they're shite, man. So that's how it worked. And then like, what was...
So you're also bamming people up. So you don't want everyone to do well. You want people to do shite, so you do the best.
No. So what we would do
was... you're sly, you're a snake. Is that what you're saying?
100%, what we would do is, me and Tom, my producer, because we were like best mates, we would go onto the studio floor to look at all the products. And the guy that was on before you would be presenting, right? Like this and now, and he'd be fucking chatting to me. So we'd be at the back, and we'd kid on that we had products that we didn't have just to noise them up. We'd be, oh, fucking hell, we've got this. And they'd be going, how have you got them? And you'd be like, mate, don't worry about it. and then we would disrupt him, distract him.
whilst they're on.
100%, right? And then also sometimes we'd have like products we didn't want to sell, and Tom would just go, oh, whoops, and we would just smash it. And he'd be like, yeah, mate, that's broken, we need to get a spare in. And we would, we would do stuff like that. And then he'd be in the producer's chair before he went on, he'd round up all the figures. So it looked like for the guys that were coming on next, we'd done even better than they did, just to fuck them up. And when we would finish our shift, we'd finish at 10, and then the next people would come on and do 10 to midnight. And we would like we'd overrun by 10 minutes to just 10 to 5. And we would sit on the last product for so long, it would kill the audience. You would just be like, good luck with that. Do you know what I mean? So it was I mean, that's how cutthroat it was. But also, there was a guy, this was at the advent of social media, I suppose. This was back in about 2009, something like that. So like Twitter
was Facebook and Twitter.
Well, Facebook and Twitter.
YouTube.
And what happened was, it was like, guys, fucking thanking all those Twitter followers. So people believed that if they sold a lot, it was because they were popular.
Right.
And I never subscribed to that, because I thought, well, that means if I don't sell a lot, it's down to me. So you had to figure out, like I say, a lot of people felt that they were there to be famous because you were on television. There's not many other people doing it. So, all right, you're not on X Factor, you're not at Sky Sports News, but you're fucking on the telly. And you had to realise, I quickly realised, this is a sales job on TV, not a TV job with sales.
Nobody watches one of those because I like that person that's selling it on it, do they?
They do. There's a lot of people that watch it. Like, I mean, I sell double glazing, right? And I've been doing that for like 8-9 years. And
you still do that now?
I'm in loads of people's houses all the time. And they're like, oh, I fucking used to watch your shopping channels. That surprised them out because...
And they know your face?
Some people, it depends what if I can see the paintings and all that I've sold them. I'm like, no, I've never been on these shopping channels. That's a nice Stephen Gayford print that you've got there. No, it's you would be surprised the amount of people that watch it because they're just wanting a bit of company. So you couldn't really be I would never be calculating about people that were buying from us. So I would never, and the best lesson I got was from my producer. He went, listen, mate, we can't sell something if it's not worth it, because they'll get it home in the box and they'll send it back. Yeah. So you can only sell if the value is there. You know what I mean?
So you would always look at products and go, if this is worth it.
So you're trying to find a hidden value before
they'll watch again. So you think they'll watch again?
Well, but because you have to build up trust. Because if you're sitting there going, oh, this is amazing, this is amazing, this is amazing, and it's clearly a piece of shit, they'll just think you're an idiot. So you've got to try and find...
See, all the sales jobs I've done have been trying to sell something that people don't want. So I've never experienced that. I tried to sell paintball tickets in Melbourne to people on the street to just go paintballing, where you could just buy the tickets when you got there.
Yeah.
And then they would get there and they had to buy all the balls and all that, but I wouldn't tell them all of that. It was fucking horrific.
I've never done that. I've always worked, like anything that I've sold, 2 companies I've worked for, I do a good job, they do a good guarantee, they've both been in business for over 30 years. It's easy to sell something, much easier to sell something if you believe in what you're selling.
Yeah, definitely.
On the shopping channels, it was slightly different, but I would never, like, because it was your reputation, because people would send you Christmas cards and stuff. I remember a woman sent me a Christmas card, and I used to do the jewellery channel, and it was like, she was like, oh, God bless you, son, for keeping me company each night, and my husband's 75 and he still has to go out and work, so I'm on my own in the evening, and I sit and watch you, and I hope your back's feeling better. And I would talk, my older brother Alexander's got cerebral palsy, and it's a big part of my life, big part of why I talk so much and all these things. He communicates with his eyes, looks up for yes. So I would always talk about my brother on air. I'd always kind of talk to him.
So you go into your personal life and all that whilst you're on?
Sorry?
You go into your personal life and all that whilst you're on?
Otherwise, what are you about? Do you know what I mean? Like,
so it wasn't just about the products. You would just talk as well.
Yeah, well, you're talking that off. You have to, because like you can only talk about a watch for so long. Do you know what I mean?
It's like if I go live and I ask people questions, I end up just chatting shit or whatever for ages, because you've got something. You need something to fill the gaps.
Yeah, that's it. It's difficult when you go live, because you go, and that's about it.
Yeah, no one gives you a question, so you're like, oh, for fuck,
yeah.
I have
So
to
you
talk
just
for 5 minutes.
it's just about trying to be relatable. So you would just I would just fucking go and talk about what was happening. So you just need to fill the gaps, basically.
How long were you in London for doing that?
About 3 years.
How did you find it?
I absolutely love London. For me, London is probably one of the best. For me, I
just moved back.
I
was there for 9 months and I fucking hated it. I absolutely hated it. It's too much. Do you know what I mean? Because
it's too busy, Lynn. It's too busy. London. SHITH Willie.
Too fucking much. Mate, I came out just before I moved back, I came out my flat. There was 13 fire engines, and then there was about 4 ambulances.
You on the set of London's Burning, was that?
No, the apartment building next to us was on fire, and I was already above an underground.
What was in the papers? The cladding, where was it? South?
Nah, it was actually like 3 months ago. It was like a tiny fire in somebody's house, and everyone overreacted. Okay. But the full street was just took up by fire engines, and there's the fucking underground, overground, and all that. I was just like, I've actually had enough of this.
You've been overwhelmed by it.
Oh, overwhelmed too much for me.
I loved it, man. I think.
Whereabouts? Where are you?
I was in Kilburn when I first moved. And then I was in North Kensington after that, which was a place called Ingham Road, just in between Ladbroke Grove and White City. I loved it, man. Absolutely.
Why'd you move back?
Because so what happened was I was on the shopping channels, and what happens is you become, familiarity breeds contempt. So I was making great money and stuff for that, but you think, I don't fucking want to do this forever. And then I've got a friend who at the time was running a betting company in Manila. I was running a Chinese betting company in the Philippines, and he phoned me. I used to DJ with this guy.
What the fuck have you not done?
Everything, man. I used to DJ with this guy's uncle. He still in the nightclub I used to DJ in, and a guy called Paul Fox, really good friend of mine, he phoned me and he was like, mate, he's like, they've got a national football league out here in the Philippines. He's like, and like all the games are on TV. He's like, and they're pretty shit. You could maybe get a game. And I was like, right, cool. So I went out to the Philippines. And by the way, some people,
is that enough to convince you?
I was like, cool. And it took me till I was 26 till I left Glasgow, right? And as I said to you, like my brother needs 24-hour care, and he's like, my best friend, and he can understand everything, and he's in a moulded wheelchair, he's strapped in, he can't sit himself up. So our family dynamic has always been about, looking after my brother, supporting my parents, my sister and I, and Alexander. So you kind of, for a long time, I never thought I was ever going to leave Glasgow. Didn't want to. I thought, how's my family going to cope without me?
Too stressful.
So, well, it's just more like you think, it's not even stressful. You just think, well, this is where I am. And so it took me till I was 26 to leave. So I suppose for me, once I left, I was a bit more amenable to, right, fuck it, I can go and do this. And I'm always a big believer in, you can probably do most things you want to, because actually, you don't really need a lot of talent to do anything. You actually just really need, I suppose, the tenacity
just
to go.
Just do it, because other people won't anyway.
Yeah, I think it doesn't take much to tough people out. So, so this boy said, do you could maybe come out and get a game? So, fuck it, all right. So I went, and again, this is the daft things I used to do. Like, your parents tell you when you're growing up, wind your neck in. Or they certainly told me that, wind your neck in, keep your head down. Don't fucking you get involved and start telling everyone what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
Being right is the biggest inconvenience anyone will ever have in their life. My advice to anyone who wants to be successful is keep your head down, say yes, and don't point out anything wrong, because nobody gives a fuck. Nobody cares because all you're doing is highlighting that somebody else hasn't picked it up. So you're like, oh, this should be better, that should be better. The guy above you's thinking, get him to fuck, mate. So I had too much to say for myself on the shopping channels. I used to fall out with the buying team who would buy our products to sell, because they would be buying a load of shit.
You just try to tell them what they could do better and all that.
But they were buying a load of shite. They were buying fucking Slazenger tracksuits to sell for 25 quid. You were getting them in Sports Direct for £9, plus a tenner postage and packaging. So when those girls were coming over, telling you to sell these Slazenger tracksuits, and I'd be like, we're not going to get £30 from them. Like, oh my God, you're being so negative. And I'm like, well, you're fucking, have you ever been to Sports Direct, right?
Genuinely Slazenger tracksuits?
Slazenger tracksuits.
Is that one thing, or are you making that up?
No, it's fucking true. It's true. I found later on they were all at it, by the way. I'll come back to that, right? So they would
you were getting bammed up.
They were buying a load of shite, right? So in the shopping channels, you had the studio, you had 3 studios, and everybody was working to the bone, trying to sell this fucking crap that they'd bought, right? And we would be trying to make it better by finding good ways to sell it. None of them watched the output. So they'd all be sat in an office and they would just look at the sales report each day and go, oh, those heated pillows did really well yesterday. Yeah, James Russell sold them for 30 quid. Oh, let's buy another 10,000 of them. Not realising that it was a one-off, because they tried to sell these plug-in heated pillows. They were shit. And then James Russell, who's one of the most gifted salesmen I've ever fucking come across, went, we could sell this as a thermal therapy cushion for women with period pains. So that works.
So you completely made it up?
Yeah,
like
but,
the use for
so
it.
You can remake the use for it. But yeah, so that might work as a one-off spike. You can spike the
right,
but it's not going to save it. But they would just go.
They're just looking purely at numbers.
So they just looked at the numbers. And you'd be like, fucking hell, guys.
Yeah.
And then You think you paid £9 or £6 for that cushion 6 months ago. How come you've bought them in again and they're £12? Because they were all dating fucking backhanders. Right?
Okay.
Stick them all in, by the way, for the tax. I'll give you names, right? Because that's what was happening. So they would just be buying loads of. So I started falling out with people because I had too much to say for myself and made myself too much of a target. And the only person I've got to blame in all of that is me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The people that get on the most in life are the guys that cause, or the women, guys and women that cause the least amount of friction. They just go, oh yeah, that's great. Do you know there was I tell you this a fucking true story. This guy was a fucking idiot. His name's Tony. Tony's watching. HMRC are coming for you. I'm not a grass fight, but this guy was an idiot. When I say an idiot, I cannot stress how stupid this guy was. They used to go to trade missions to China. Basically, these were the influencers of their day. All that they would do, if you had a Dyson, right?
This is just what's happening now, but before.
Yeah, so if you had a Dyson, right? Well, rather than pay £400 for a Dyson, we would make our own one and it would be called Elitech. Right, that's the name of it. Right? So we would go
Source for China.
Source for China. So these buyers would go on trade missions to China and all that, right? And one guy came back and he bought this thing. I swear to God, it was a projector. I mean, I can tell you everything about this, right? Me and Tom will tell you, right? It's a projector. He came back with these 12 projectors because we used to go to trade shows every 6 months. You got a day off of being on air, which was great because it was really tiring.
Right.
And they would show you all the new products for the new quarter, and you'd be like, "What is this shit, man?" And these were all like kind of kids like yourself. No, they were all these were all.
That's
these
about
were,
7 days.
These were all fucking like real posh lads for like, you know, London, and they'd all wanted to be. Well, yes, well, actually, James. Yeah, well, what we've actually got here today is, and so this guy went and got these 12 projectors, $3,000 each. We were going to sell them for. These were these multimedia projectors that fucking had an HDMI cable and this and that. And I was like, why did they have DVD players in them? Surely it'd be Blu-ray. You know, these things were fucking. He paid $1,000 each for them, and we were going to sell them for like $2,500, right? So it was going to be it was the most expensive thing we'd ever sold on the channels, right?
Well, I can't imagine
And we
someone
looked at
spending
him
that amount of money.
This guy was convinced. I don't know all about this technical stuff, but this guy said, "What's the lumen range of the projector?" The guy that sold him these, right, it's just fucking fact, went, nah, see, the lower the number of lumens, the better it actually is. You're laughing at that, Paul.
He's the only one that would understand.
Is that true, Paul? Is that right? No, right? No, what I'm saying is lumens. Is that to do with the brightness of the bulb? Right? So what happened was we did this big mad product launch. Nobody bought any. In fact, someone who used to work on the channels phoned up, pressed 1, which means they're not in it, fucking never can. Because what would happen if you dialed up, press 1, that was you, bought it, the number would go off screen, and then they'd phone you back like 20 minutes later to confirm the sale and take the payment details. Right. I'm not buying that. Right? So this guy spent fucking $12,000 of the company's money buying projectors that didn't that he was told that they say were the industry standard at that point would say 300 lumens, and he bought ones that had fucking 10 lumens, and he's like, nah, like I was told like the lower number the lumens the better. My mate Tom was like, is this fucking for real?
How has he managed to get a hold of the budget as well? Are you allowed to buy stuff?
We weren't allowed to do this. So the buying had a separate team, and they were in a separate part of the building.
Right, okay.
So they'd be up to all sorts, but nobody. What I'm trying to say is nobody would ever come over and go, do you know what? I've just been over there talking to the presenters, the producers. I think we've made an ass of this. I'm really sorry. I've actually got this wrong. Who's ever going to say that?
Yeah.
So all that happens is the guy that's making the noise, just get him to fuck. You know, so I was falling out with people all the time, and I think the Philippines thing coincided with, I had a manager, she was fucking really toxic, she was horrible, and I think she was trying to fucking screw me about on my rota, because I was freelance at this point.
I can't imagine any managers in that type of work being sound.
Oh, no, she was horrible. So she was like,
because it's all about money and
desperate
sales.
to control you though. So like, she was like, oh, I've given you these shit, and there was like these mad split shifts they were bringing in, so I had to come in, put all my fucking makeup and all that on, suit on, go on, present for 2 hours, come off for a 3-hour break and go back on for it. I was like, nah, I don't think so. Right? And she was like, well, what about how are you going to pay your rent? That's what she said to me.
Fucking hell.
I went like that. Don't ever fucking say it. Don't ever worry about how I'm going to pay my rent. I mean, just take me off the rota for the month. So I literally I would do stuff for that. Went out to the Philippines, got a trial, for some team.
How good were you at football before?
Decent amateur footballer.
Decent amateur?
Decent amateur footballer.
I thought you were going to say that you'd maybe played for Mother or something when you were younger. So just an
I've
amateur.
got mates that all played for Mother when I was younger. Adam Coatley, Craigie Brownlee, fucking Mark Reynolds.
Because I knew that you'd went to the Philippines, but I just presumed you get injured or something and you went, I'll try
I was
again.
a good amateur footballer, man. Big hard worker and all that. Do you know what I mean?
I'd put a shift
first
in.
First touch like a child's playground, man. Do you know what I mean? So I went out there, right, and I fucking, this team went, we'll sign you if you come back, right? So I went back, went to the jewellery channel, then flew back out to the Philippines in January.
Did they know you were doing that?
I was earning amazing money on the jewellery channel. It was the worst job I ever had, because like Bid TV and Price Shop TV, there was 3 cameras on you, fucking cameramen busying about, fucking assistants and all that. And the jewellery channel it wasn't even as good a studio as this.
Right.
Like, it was like a fucking cupboard in a car park, and the cat used to come in and fucking sit at my feet. And at first I'd be like, get that cat to fuck. And then I was like, can you just leave the cat in here? It's giving me company. Do you know what I mean? And I'd be sitting till 2 a.m. with my makeup and all that on, shirt, jacket, and I'd have my jeans and my long johns on underneath it. So I went out to the Philippines, and the team that wanted to sign me got a new manager. I think I played a bounce game and I was fucking horrendous, and they were just like, yeah, I don't think so, mate. And then I
you only done one game?
No, I was going to, so I went to trained with this team that were like part-time, and they were going to sign me. And then what happened was, there's a guy, big guy for Glasgow actually, Brian Reid, used to play for Rangers, managed there United. He took over at the Filipino champions called Global FC.
That was your only way of getting in. You
and
know,
my mate Paul
Glasgow.
Fox, his dad knew all them and all that, so we went down to watch this game. He just steamed up. He's like, big man, my mate's some fucking player, you should sign him. And I ended up getting going on trial. I played really well, and went and trained with them for a week, and they like fucking signed me. You know what I mean? And I played, like, came off the bench like 7 times.
So were you DJing on the side?
The DJing thing I did when I DJed when I was 17 at uni. I DJed till I was 26, 27 in Glasgow. Right. So I used to DJ in loads of places.
So you were literally just in the Philippines to play football?
To play football. And so I signed him, we were full time and all that. And I was playing with a guy that played fucking in the Premier League for Sheffield United and all that. Played in the under-20 World Cup for Poland. Played against.
Where have you played? Mill United?
No, he was like that. No, this guy's a friend of mine, Ben Starosta, right? Played for Bradford, Darlington. He had 2 full caps for Poland. He had pictures of him playing against Sergio Aguero in the fucking under-20 World Cup and all that. And he was like that to me, all right, mate, like what teams have you played for? And I was like, it's a couple of teams in Glasgow, man. Shawlands and Kings Park Rangers. Big rivalry. But it's a different level, man. Like, see guys that have played, like, the difference is, see boys that have maybe played with
They
teams,
don't even need to try in those games. That's the thing, in those leagues.
In games it's different. You can hide your level, or you can play. It's easier to play in a game. I found the difference was, see, when you're playing in training, these boys had maybe been at fucking clubs in Europe till they were 17, 18. They'd be, playing at that level, youth. So from they're 8, 9, they're getting coached 3-4 times a week, man. I fucking couldn't. They were like, right, take the ball on your left foot, drill it in. I'm like, what? I mean, I'll fall here if I try and hit that with my left foot. And like, I remember fucking, like, I think I'm quite clever. Right? I've got a master's degree in business. I've got a degree in economics. I read the Scottish Sun every day, right?
Yeah, that's the main one, the Herald.
Right?
The Herald.
No, that's behind a paywall, so I only read the Herald on a Sunday for the big read, which is free.
Right,
there you go. Neil Mackay's big read is free on a Sunday. I will not pay for the paywall. So what's that was, used to put the fucking big read used to put the cones down every day, man. Right? And I'd be like that. Oh fuck. Right. I'd be trying to get on my, so what happens next? Do I go first? And
that's what I couldn't get.
And then
I can't get the training drills.
And then the boys would just go like, just follow the guy in front of you, mate. All right, cool. Do you know what I mean? I didn't know, like, and that's when you see people have got brains in their feet, because like, we would train at 8 in the morning. By 8:30 it was 30 degrees, right? And I'd like fucking run into the middle to take a pass. And because if you were just doing amateur football training, guy might have a C licence and it would just be 3 or 4 passes in the drill. Guy with an A licence, it's the same first 3 or 4 passes, but then it develops as maybe fucking 7 or 8. Yep. I'd run out in the middle of the pitch, touch the ball, and I'd be like that, and I would just have a meltdown. But oh, Biggie, you been on a whiskey last night? I fucking wish I was. And what's really funny is, there used to be a car crash at training every day because it was like this junction that was being built. There was
Mate, I watched
and I think I was the biggest car crash.
See, before I had done this, I was trying to do any sort of research, and I watched your Instagram highlights of you going to Manila, and it's just you going like that. This used to be like that.
Nah.
Literally like 5 stories.
Well,
in a row.
that's when I went back. I went back to see Paul a couple of years ago, and the rate of fucking growth.
How long were you there for?
The Philippines. I was probably there for about 6 months or something.
Did you like it?
Brilliant, absolutely amazing. What a place. Very friendly, amazing.
Manila
People
friendly. I guess a well bad rap, doesn't it?
It's really funny because like it's that, you know, don't travel there. Like, you know, it's a really dangerous.
See, if you go anywhere in Asia, they're always going, don't go to Manila. Anywhere in Asia. So
absolute canter. Could not meet nicer people. Also as well, like I would walk to training through the slums and all that.
Really?
And like it's so funny, Americans so dramatic, like, hey man, you can't do that. You get shot here. And I was like, shut up, man. You just be cutting a bit. I loved it. It was an amazing place.
How did you get a visa for it?
I didn't.
Did you have to do visa runs?
No. The guy that was the owner of the team was like the Filipino Vladimir Romanov.
Right.
Just gave him my passport and he got it stamped for me and all that.
You out. How many games did you end up playing?
I came off the bench 7 times.
Okay,
that's when you had 5 subs and all that. Like 2 minutes left. I'll come on. You know what I mean? So it was.
Get your wee bonus.
It was. I said it was great fun, man. You fucking get the coach to games and. You know, with fucking meals in the hotel.
You
and
know
all
you're
that.
not playing anyway, don't you? Just a wee day out.
I loved it when I loved it when we had a game because you didn't need to fucking train. I used to have convulsions about training, man. Oh, fucking here's my first touch again, man. Jesus. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what Ben used to be. I think he's better in a game, Gaffer. I think he's better in a game.
Well, just because you didn't have to think about the fucking what you had to do in training.
you can hide your ability a lot more because it can
you
be
can just get the ball and pass it in again, can't you?
Also as well, it's where you position yourself. You can
hide.
You can do a lot more. You can do a lot more off the ball. Do you know what I mean? So you know where to stand. You know where to run into. You can do a lot more off the ball. Like I always say to people, I'm fucking great without the ball. Great without the ball. Keep the ball away from me.
Near people the full
I'm a
game.
valuable addition to the team. If you want somebody to run into the ground, that's me. I'll do all the shit. I'll pick up the cones, bring in the nets, all that shit. Self-awareness is key. You need to know, are you any good? No, right, we'll just work dead hard. That's kind of it. That's my outlook in life.
Right, see, how the fuck from all of that, from the jewellery to the amateur footballer in the Philippines, did you get into comedy?
Like pro in the Philippines? Come on, babe.
Right.
I was an amateur player.
I actually can't believe that because I tried to do the same in Australia, but I got fucking nowhere. I was in like the third league.
Much higher level though, do you know what I mean?
They were still shite, mate. See, if you play football with Aussies, like they don't even know how to position themselves around. It's so weird, but they were still better than me.
Aye. Again, it's like anything else, man. Just I had a punt at it. So comedy. I did a stand-up comedy course when I lived in London. There's a guy, you should look him up on Instagram. He's the most handsome man in the world. Guy called David Frampton, right? And his brothers, like you look, each one's fucking better looking than the next. You know what I mean? Russian doll keep coming out. Yeah. Keep coming out and get smaller. Russian dolls keep getting better looking. I think his brother's called like Roger Frampton. He's fucking verified. He's a movement coach and stuff like that. And they all model for like Ralph Lauren and all that, right? They're fucking just he actually I moved out of this flat and he moved in. And he's a really good guy. And I was up seeing my old flatmate in Kilburn and I can't remember talking about comedy. He went, "Oh, you should do this course I did, James." And it was a really bit of a legend, a comedy guy called Logan Murray.
Right.
So you did the course over sort of 3 months. Every Thursday you meet up in Camden. You do writing exercises. You know, kind of fucking, and it would build up to do a gig.
How long? Because I always find it fascinating with comedy. It's like people think they can be funny. Like, see if you go to watch comedy with someone, like one in the group will go, "I could do that." I'm always like, "No, you fucking couldn't."
I think everyone could, but it's like anything else.
But you need a year.
I think it's like anything else. When you look at something, you go, "I could do that," and then you deconstruct. You go, "Oh fuck, didn't realize there was that much involved." So we did that. We did a gig, and there's some great people that I'm still in touch with from the course. But I was presenting on the shopping channels at the time, so I never followed it up. Like I did like another 3 or 4 gigs after that. But you need to hammer. So you start off, you do open spots, you know, so open mic nights, you maybe do 5, you maybe do 10, you've got to do that. So I never picked it back up. It took me 10 years till I came back to Glasgow, till I quit my job. After about 6.5 years, I was just fucking kind of burnt out.
What was the job?
I was selling windows. I was working for a company called C.R. Smith, great company, good people. But I was working 80 hours a week. I was totally burnt out, and I was really lonely as well. I didn't realise I was lonely at the time. I was just, what happens is you kind of sometimes, if you're a workaholic,
that's what I do. I've got that problem.
You basically, what you're doing is you're actually, I didn't know at the time, but what you're doing is you're trying to hide yourself from the fact that you've not got anything else.
So you
going
don't
for
sit
you.
and think about the fact.
So you're just like, I'll just work all the time, and you create that as an identity for yourself, and you kind of, as a result, lose who you are, or you don't know who you are, and you're just working all the time. And I'd done my masters, I'd bought a flat, but I was totally lost, man. And like, so I chucked it, and I remember at that point, I think, well, I need to try and do something else. And I got back into the stand-up comedy, and I was really scared of going to a couple of open mic gigs and trying to do a 10 or a 5.
How did you feel about just doing it around here?
It was hard because my biggest fear was I would chuck it again, like I wouldn't follow up. So I kind of made a real effort to just go. So in the first 6 months, I'd done over 100 gigs.
Fuck, that's
which is a lot easier when you're single, because I've got a girlfriend, and you've also then got to think about someone else in the dynamic. You think, well, it's not, I
think anyone that starts anything, if they're single, they've got a better chance at the start.
Absolutely. So she said to me, like, comedy 3 nights a week's fine. But a couple of times I'd done like a Friday, Saturday, and I think that's her weekend, gubbed, or I'm not with her. So you've also then got to think, is that fair? So you just got to build it up. You've got to do. So what happens is in Glasgow, there's really good comedy scene in Glasgow. I mean, London's got a good scene. Glasgow's got an excellent scene. So is Edinburgh. So I just started, do 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You would do a lot of open mics.
Have you bombed before?
Oh, loads of times. You have to bomb. You can't.
What was like your first bombing like?
I can't really remember, but I mean, also some people might think you've bombed, and I think, well, I think I did all right. Do you know what I mean? There's that discord, because as you said earlier, you've got to have a bit of narcissism as a coping mechanism to think, it's not me, it's the crowd. If you're too hard on yourself saying it's me, you've got to strike the balance, So, you can go up and fucking have it. I mean, I bombed at the Rotunda one Friday night, and that's, so you want to progress to comedy clubs at the weekends. That's
the aim.
That's not so much the end game, but that's where you want to get to. You want to start getting booked. So, for example,
like a regular at the stand.
But so what happens is you'll do open mics, and anyone can go to an open mic, and they're good opportunities to run out new material, to keep practicing, to refine things. Then you want to get booked by promoters for gigs. So I would do a lot of gigs for Des McLean, for example, who he's a really hard working promoter. He takes his comedy shows around East Kilbride, fucking Linlithgow. I'm doing the Corby Inn in Bo'ness, a couple of weeks on Saturday. The
you do Hamilton, don't you?
The Junkyard. So there's loads of things. You want to get booked for basically a ticketed gig where somebody's paying to get in, and then you'll be on the bill.
Do they pay in the Junkyard?
Not really, no. So again, all depends.
Is that open mic?
What's more of an open mic, but again, you want to get booked onto weekend shows where people are getting paid to do it. And you might be on there with a couple of pro comedians, so it's an opportunity for you to watch pro comedians, for them to see you, and then you start getting booked for more and more. So the Rotunda at the weekend, you'll maybe get a 10-minute.
A know people thing as well, isn't it?
It's just got to. You can't cheat it. You've got to do the miles, as it were. So I mean, I remember coming back after lockdown. I'd written all this new material. I'd done a few gigs, done really well. I'd opened up in Aberdeen at the Breakneck Comedy Club. I'd done well at a gig in the Admiral called Entertainment. Again, pro comedians on the bill, and I fucking did really well. Took the exact same 10 minutes. Went to the Rotunda. Got offered the Rotunda Friday, Saturday as the middle spot. So you do 10 minutes. There's a chance for progression, whatever. And fucking went up on the Friday, man. The fucking promoters at the back of the room with his fucking flash on his phone. I've only done 6 minutes at this point, and he's going. And he's desperate to get me off because I'm fucking bombing, and I'm like, fucking hell, man. So you can see all this happening. You're not getting the laughs.
I didn't realise you'd ever get sick. I thought you would take yourself off.
No. So and you're thinking he's wanting you off, and like I knew that I would finish well, and I finished well enough. Right, I got 2 big laughs at the end, but I'd done 8 minutes. I've been shite, and I'm booked for the fucking following night, man. And like, what was worse was I came off. Ray Bradshaw came on, and as he was MC, and he went, "You finished well, So what, fuck." And I sat down at the back table with the 2 other comedians was on. There was Ian Hume, a guy called Chris Hobbs, who's fucking brilliant, and Ray Bradshaw, and like the promoter Alan Anderson sat down, and he was like, "Aye, so you used to work in the shopping channels?" He says, "We never sold one fucking punchline there." this is in front of the other comedians, and I'm like, fucking hell. And he's like, that was fucking dreadful. That was boring. It was an A. And he's like, see, your stuff that you used to do, that was great because you were gallus and you were the underdog. That sounded like a fucking boast. And I was like, fuck. But it was really good feedback. He was like, you need to, comedy's about extracting.
That's where you need the narcissism like, to deal with stuff like that.
Also as well, you need to have the wherewithal of going, cool, just tell me what I need to do. And I had to stand there to the end of the gig and stand
That's
next
a
to this
horrible
guy.
thing to do.
And I had to stand there and go out to the guy, can I come back tomorrow? Because what was going to happen was the next day he would have probably just gone on the Facebook, there's a comedy group on Facebook for all the Scottish comic, would have probably said, I need a 10-minute, who wants to do 10 minutes? So my feel is, I'm going to get pulled to this gig tomorrow.
Did you do it the next day?
And I was booked for Aberdeen the following week, and it was just him that was, so I actually, and he fucking messaged me in the morning, he's like, listen, I need 10 minutes tonight, how are you going to fix that? So I was like, listen, I'll rewrite it, this is what I'm going to do, fucking, I will do it. So I went back the next night, took my girlfriend down, and he was up hosting this guy.
Mate, that's a well-bold move. I bombed here last night, do you want to come watch it?
And by the way, the guy, the promoter was actually emceeing it that night, and he went, right, we've got fucking 4 comedians, 3 of them are good, 1 of them shit, I'll let you know which one it is. Fucking hell. And I went up and I fucking did the 10, and I did so much better. And I did it again the following week, and he was MC again. He went, listen, see you Friday, you were down there. And Saturday you were there, and tonight you were there. It was horrible, but it was probably the best thing that happened to me. I would never want to go through it again, but that's what happens. You're going to bomb.
See, if you think about it comedy-wise, do you think the more you bomb, actually, the better you get, because you actually see what's not working quicker?
I think it's like anything else. You need to just have a bit of objectivity, because it's in football.
Or if you keep bombing, you're just shite.
Yeah, in football parlance, you will never ever go out to get beat. You want to win every game, but you'll learn more in defeat than you will in victory, won't you? So it's one of those ones. Yeah, it's good to bomb, but don't have a plan for it. Do you know what I mean? And I think the more seasoned you become, you can start recognising that you're bombing. You go, fuck it, I'm just going to go back to stuff that I know works here. And that's the difference. When you're less competent at things, like I told you about 5 times, I went to a PT session this morning night, and I don't do a lot of weights or whatever, as you can probably tell. So when I'm doing these exercises that I've not done before, there's so much going on in my head because I'm not used to doing it. So I'm like, fuck, I need to keep my arms, is it there? And I fucking lose count. I don't know how many I'm doing because I'm concentrating on so many other things. The more competent you become, you don't think about that. It's like the driving analogy. You know, when you first start driving, you're like, what, clutch?
Yeah, I'm doing it just now. I can't drive.
So what happens, you're so conscious of fucking clutch down, gear, mirrors, signal, fucking hell. Whereas once you've been driving for a couple of years, you don't even know that you're doing it, and you can start thinking about other things. So I think the more competent you become,
you're actually reading the crowd.
You can do it, deliver your words, hit your points, get the laughs, and you're also going, right, she doesn't seem that happy, he seems that happy. And I think the more comfortable you become on stage, the better you will become at that. So I've absolutely bombed. I'm sure I will bomb again. I don't want to. I'm sure I'll make an ass of it, but it's just the way it goes. Before I go, right, doing Glee on Friday the 4th of March. I'm really excited for that because I've not done Glee before. That's, again, quite a fucking big one for an open spot. So I'm doing Glee on Friday 4th of March. I've got Corby's in Dunfermline. No, that's Cody's in Dunfermline, Sunday 27th of February. Friday 4th of March is Glee. Friday 18th of March, I've got my own show. We're doing what's called a 3-hander. So that's 3 comedians splitting the hour. So it's me, Thomas Elvin, and Mark Black, brother of Paul Black.
Paul Black, the guy that's
Paul
on
Black's
TikTok.
brother. He's really funny, Mark. Him and Thomas were both in the final of Scottish Comedian of the Year. I was in the semi. So they're better than me. So we've got our own show at the Admiral, Friday 18th of March, 8:30 to 9:30. So I'll be doing 20 minutes there. And then I think the following night I'm in Bonus at the Corby Inn.
Right, okay.
Des McLean and whoever
Cool. Me and Sean will come to some of them, definitely.
Well, listen, I would absolutely
Where can people get tickets?
Just go on my TikTok, and there's a Jamesy Cotter on TikTok, and there's a link for bio, or on my Instagram, which is Comedy James. There's a link for
cool.
stuff.
Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Cut out all the swear words and any nefarious references. Take them out because I did not say any of that. I was under duress.
It's me. I was trying to get you cancelled, mate.
Blinking 3 times because I'm under duress. But that's great. Thanks for having me.
No worries, mate.